Anyway, so much X-Men talk leads us into the next thing we came to talk about. The X-Men, the animated series, X-Men 97 trailer finally dropped. And how'd you feel about this, man? We've both been anticipating this a long time, seeing stills and what the characters were going to look like, updated animation,
Mhm.
but still, I feel like holding true to the old look. Uh, what'd you think, man?
So I had no idea this trailer was coming. Like I had no forewarning or anything. Like I'm not on social media, so I don't know if there was any buzz that like people were thinking it was coming soon or anything. I had a couple of days off work. I slept in one day and I woke up and I had a text from my buddy Jamie, who Nerdology 5280.
Mhm.
Um, and I was like, "Oh, cool, what's this?" And it was like a link for like a YouTube video. So I was like, "All right, this should be interesting," because he usually sends. He knows that I don't get my news from the socials and all that, so he's usually sending me stuff all the time.
Need some?
Um, so I
Yeah.
clicked the link and it's X-Men 97, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
And I watched it like 3 times. Ran downstairs, and kids were eating breakfast. I'm like, "Everyone, shut up!" I turned the TV on. And I'm like, "We got to watch this. Check this out."
Yeah.
And like the trailer was good. They didn't really give anything away, which I
No.
like. Everything that was shown in the trailer, we've pretty much already had confirmed by like Comic Con panels. And
Mhm.
it's the like Magneto's going to be on the team, and it's the same team. Only Bishop's there sometimes, and Morph is there sometimes, and like the trailer didn't give anything away. I think my favorite part of the trailer was the release date announcement, because I've been googling like every 3 days. I'll Google like X-Men 97 release date and see if there's like any new
Yeah.
articles or whatever. So the fact that we finally have a release date, we know when it's coming this year. That's got me like the most hyped, because like I'm gonna watch the show whether the trailer was good or bad or amazing or terrible. Like I'm
Yeah.
I'm in. I'm all in already. So the date was like the most important, but like the stuff that we got was really good. I'm digging the animation style. It's not quite where like 1602 was. It definitely feels like present day Marvel animation, but it does still look and feel like the original X-Men the animated series. Like the
Yeah.
characters, they look the same but a little bit more modern. Super recognizable though. I like it. Some of the voice actors have been moved around. Some of them have been replaced because unfortunately some of them have passed away.
Mhm.
And of course it's all, most of them are all still the original actors, and they're
Yeah.
they're older now.
Yeah.
Their voices have changed. It's 30 years later, and so their voices are a little different. I think Wolverine was the big one that a lot of
Yeah.
people are like, "Oh, he doesn't sound like Wolverine." It's like, yeah, well, it's the same actor, like
Yeah.
who
It's
cares? Like,
30 years later of
yeah,
doing, this voice, bub. Like, I mean, he's putting some effort into that voice anyway. Imagine like purposely speaking in a gruff voice, as like your main cue for voice acting, and then doing that for years and years and years, and then going to cons and doing it over and over and over again for fans.
oh yeah,
Because Cal Dodd, he's one of those who have been on the con circuit. He's always showing up at different conventions and signing for people, taking pictures with people, and probably doing the voice for people. Um, but yeah, you can imagine that, using that voice over and over again, and just the fact that you've aged 30 years
yeah,
would play a toll on your vocal cords, like, a little bit.
hmm
So,
yeah,
yeah, his voice, it sounds a little deeper, a little older, but it's still Wolverine, man. It's just imagine
yep.
it's an older, more grizzled kinda Wolverine.
And it's the attitude is still there, like the
Yeah.
the line that we got where he's like, "Geez, bub, buzzing in my ear." Like
Yeah.
the attitude was still there. The performance is still there. It's
Mhm.
still the same Wolverine. He just sounds a little bit different. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
I think the guy that is playing Cyclops now is, he kind of had that command authority tone
Mhm.
to his voice. Like it looked good, it sounded good. I dig the action. I was hoping that we would have had a few more characters show up in the trailer,
Mhm.
especially some of the bad guys that we already know are coming. I think the Comic Con last year they announced that Sinister is going to be the big bad for the season, And we also know that like the Hellfire Club is showing up because they mentioned Sebastian Shaw and Emma Frost were going to be
Mm.
in this season. We know that Callisto and the Morlocks. We know that like Val Cooper's coming in. We know that we're supposed to see the Sentinels. We know that Bishop and Morph, but also Nightcrawler and Colossus are supposed to be regulars on the show. Cable's supposed to be in it. But like we've had toys and like Funko Pops and things like that that have revealed other villains.
Hmm.
And I was really kind of hoping that we would have seen some more like villain action. But I get like if you're not following like the toy releases, then you don't know that this series is going to have certain characters. Should we go full spoiler or should I
Yeah,
keep it to
yeah,
myself?
yeah.
Yeah, all right.
No, it's fine.
So like New York Comic Con had a Funko Pop exclusive for X-Men 97 that's the Goblin Queen.
Interesting.
And she came with a baby, like she's holding a baby. The Funko
Mhm.
Pop is holding a baby that's like wrapped in like a little X blanket. It's adorable, like a little X-Men blanket, like the swaddling blanket has got all the
So
X's on it.
cute. Yes.
Right, like it's adorable. And then they've also the second wave of the X-Men Marvel Legends toys have been revealed because they drop April 1st, and Executioner is someone that's getting an action figure. So it's like we're getting Executioner in here. Like let's see some of these characters that
Hmm.
fans aren't going to recognize, and it's going to make people go, "Ooh, who's that? Who's that villain? Like I should look
Yeah.
that up." Executioner is not a very recognizable character, um, and I think even the Goblin Queen, she's shown up a lot more recently lately in the comics, so people might recognize her, but otherwise it just kind of looks like an evil Jean Grey that's not the Phoenix with a
Mhm.
baby. Like I think that would make people super interested to try to learn more about these characters ahead of the show. But at the same time, it's like you want that, you want people to be surprised and stuff.
Yeah.
So I understand why they're not like throwing all the villains in here too. And people are going to be excited to see the X-Men. So show us the X-Men. Like,
Yeah.
and I think they did a good job with it.
Yeah. Well, you gotta. I mean, just think back to when we were kids watching this X-Men the animated series. A lot of these characters, this was our first introduction to them,
Yeah.
and then we ended up reading them in the comics later. But this was our introduction, and so I feel like it's going to be that for a lot of younger people too,
Yeah.
and older people watching this for the first time or tuning in because they loved it as a kid, but they never really got into the comics at all. Like they're going to get introduced to new characters, not just the same old, same old. So I think that's good, and especially if we're building a live action universe to just get more and more of these characters introduced to young people who will then hope and speculate that they might show up in live action films. Like that's the way to do it, man. You got to get the kids first. They got us first. They got us when we were kids, and then we wanted to read the comics, and then when the films came out, you know, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and against all odds, I don't think anyone really expected X-Men to do really well, but had quite a bit of fanfare, got several sequels, and then spawned what, like 10 different X-Men films. So, uh, yeah, I'd say it worked, and it was because of our generation, I really believe, from this X-Men the animated series. Like that was
Yeah.
that was the main people I feel like seeing X-Men when it released in 2000.
hmm
It was kids who grew up with X-Men the animated series.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It came out when I was in high school, and the theater was always packed with classmates, like other
Yeah.
high school kids, kids my age.
Yep.
I was like 15 when it came out, and yeah, there were a lot of other 15-year-olds in that theater watching that movie
Mhm.
because X-Men, and not all of them were like me that were like, oh yeah, I read X-Men comics and like I trade,
Right.
or I don't trade, but I collect trading cards and I do all this and I have all the games on Sega and I have the action figures. Some of them were just like, oh yeah, I had some of the toys when I was a kid, and then now the movie's out and it's like, hey, I get to see these guys live action. um, yeah, they can build up and do that same thing. And now they've got the same generation. We're the parents now. We're like, hey kids, look at
Yeah.
this cartoon. It's X-Men. Let's watch this. And now we'll be bringing families back to theaters to see Marvel movies again.
I hope so, man. Like I hope that's the case. I really love though because not everyone is following all the the Comic Con panels and the articles that you and I share back and forth. Um, I'm sure for a lot of fans, it was a big surprise that that uh, ending that they threw in there with Magneto inheriting, everything that Xavier left behind. Like that's like a massive moment that I feel like I already kind of knew about, but for other people who were like, "Oh, I haven't seen this in years," and then they were like, "What? Magneto is running the X-Men? Like this is crazy." I can imagine how jarring that would be. Um, it got me excited. I mean, for me, that was the best part of the trailer. Um, just I also liked like when Cyclops first walked in. I love that they're treating it as if it is '97, and the clothes, the outfits, everything's still very '90s, and I hope they really lean into that. But
Yeah.
Cyclops walks in and like his tank top and stuff, and it was just like, what is going on here? And then it's Magneto, in the study, just hanging out. That was awesome. That was the best scene in there for me. What did you make of yeah, Hot Claws Wolverine being charged up, being
Yeah.
charged up by Gambit?
That was awesome. That was so cool. I like seeing them doing new things. I don't know if this ever happened before. I would imagine at some point in the comics it had probably been done, but I don't remember any examples off the top of my head. But yeah, it's just seeing the like he's running and the claws just start glowing. Like I don't know, that was cool. My sons brought up the point that they're like, I hope that Gambit can like pinpoint what he's charging up, and he didn't just charge up
Yeah,
all of Wolverine and Skeleton.
yeah. Is Wolverine
It's
about to
just the claws.
explode? Yeah,
But yeah, that's cool. Like I really want to see how that goes now. Like when he's got the kinetic charged claws, when he slashes a Sentinel, is that
mhm,
Sentinel just gonna freaking blow up? Like
right.
yeah. So yeah, I was like, oh man, I have to see how this ends.
Yeah, I think so the what it reminded me of is you remember the old X-Men Legends game and how you could like combine powers for attacks?
Mm,
Like that
hmm.
totally seemed like one of those like, like dual power attacks where you would like charge up another character and attack. That's
Yeah.
what it reminded me of. So I don't think it's ever been done other than like that type of thing. And I think that's if they were inspired by like video games like that for that idea, I think that's perfect.
Mhm.
That's great.
Yeah, all those X-Men Legends games are some of my like favorite all-time games. They're
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, dude. Still to this day they hold up, man. Great
Mhm.
games. And it's like if anyone likes the Marvel Legends game, or what is it? Marvel
The Ultimate
Alliance,
Alliance.
Ultimate
Yeah.
Alliance. The Ultimate Alliance games, go back and check out those X-Men Legends games because it's literally the same thing but the X-Men universe.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
great stuff. Good storylines in there too.
Yes.